Smoke chokes the air atop the Cyclopean walls. A lone warrior watches Mycenae burn, a city once proud, now a sea of fire and chaos. The roar of flames drowns out all else, punctuated by screams and the clash of bronze. This is not a distant war. This is the end. The heart of a civilization is being torn out before his eyes. He grips his spear, knowing the walls, once thought eternal, are breached. The Mycenaeans, lords of the Aegean, had traded with pharaohs, fought legendary wars, and built palaces that inspired myth. But tonight, the legends turn to ash. The enemy is inside the gates, a faceless force sweeping away the old world. The warrior feels the heat, a harbinger of doom. The Megaron, the king's hall, is now a blackened ruin. Gold, frescoes, records, all melting, all lost. The web of command and life itself snaps, thread by thread. There is no plan, no rescue, only this night and the fire. This is more than the fall of one city. It is the end of an age. Across Greece, other citadels, Pylos, Tyrans, Thebes, face the same fate. The lights of the Bronze Age are being extinguished. A darkness is falling, a silence that will last for centuries. The warrior knows only the terror of this endless night. Invaders swarm through the Lion Gate, shadows dancing in the firelight. His grip tightens. There is nothing left to defend, only how you meet the end. The world he knew is gone. The age of heroes is over. Why look back over 3,000 years to a world of bronze swords and forgotten kings? The story of the Mycenaeans is not just ancient history, it's a warning. It shows how even the most powerful, interconnected societies can fall. Suddenly, their collapse was not a slow decline, but a cliff edge. One moment, thriving palaces. The next, silence. Civilization is fragile. Like us, the Mycenaeans depended on complex systems, trade, supply chains, networks stretching from Egypt to Italy. When those broke, their world shattered. It's a lesson in systemic risk. A crisis in one place can bring down the whole. But it's also a story of resilience. When the palaces fell and writing was lost, survivors adapted. They scattered, learned to work iron, and created new communities. The epic tales of Homer were born from these ashes, memories of a lost golden age. When we look at Mycenae's ruins, we see ourselves. How secure is our world? What holds us together? The end of the Bronze Age is a case study in collapse and rebirth. It teaches us about vulnerability, but also about the human capacity to endure and create anew. This story is more relevant today than ever. Who were the Mycenaeans? Not a single nation, but a patchwork of citadels ruled by powerful kings. Wanax, Mycenae, Tyrans, Pylos, Thebes, centers of a warrior elite obsessed with power and status. Their kings were buried with gold masks and bronze armor, their lives defined by rigid hierarchy. At the top, the Wanax. Below, military leaders, priests, scribes, artisans. The palace was the heart, administrative, economic, and political engine. Scribes used linear B to record every resource. Chariots, sheep, oil, barley. This was a command economy, efficient but brittle. Ordinary people labored for the palace, paying heavy taxes. Palace workshops produced goods for trade, pottery, oil, textiles, exchanged for copper, tin, gold, and amber. The elite grew fabulously wealthy, but the system was vulnerable. Bronze required tin, which was rare and came from distant lands. Disrupt the trade, and the whole system faltered. The society was so centralized that if the palace fell, nothing could replace it. There was no plan B. Even before the fires, the Mycenaean world was unstable. Immense wealth was concentrated in the hands of a few. Palaces controlled every resource, every person, every activity. Out of fear, the system could unravel. Citadels were built for war, not ceremony. Rivals surrounded them. The palace bureaucracy was a hungry machine, putting pressure on farmers and herders. A single bad harvest or a decade of drought could push the system to collapse. Their reliance on international trade was their Achilles' heel. By 1250 BC, their neighbors, the Hittites, Egypt, were also showing signs of stress. The first blow was not an army, but the earth itself. Around 1250 BC, powerful earthquakes rocked the Peloponnese. Cyclopean walls collapsed, buildings fell, and repair gangs scrambled to rebuild. The damage was significant, but not fatal. The Mycenaeans were resilient. But the psychological blow was deep. If the palaces could be shaken, were the kings truly powerful? Rebuilding required massive resources, straining the palace economy. Linear B tablets show a bureaucracy stretched to its limits. The earthquakes didn't just damage walls, they weakened the entire system. Fear grew. At Mycenae, new walls protected water supplies, preparing for siege. They were no longer just worried about the earth shaking, but about human enemies. The tremors left a lasting sense of dread. The palaces were vulnerable. The first cracks had appeared. The countdown to collapse had begun. After the earth shook, the rains failed. Around 1200 BC, a severe drought gripped the eastern Mediterranean. Crops withered, rivers dried, and famine stalked the land. The palace system could handle a bad harvest, but not a decade of drought. Storehouses emptied, and the wanax was powerless. The redistribution system broke down. There was nothing left to give. Malnutrition led to disease, social order frayed, and desperate farmers abandoned their land. Some turned to banditry, others became refugees. Linear B tablets from Pylos show a kingdom in crisis. Watchers on the coast, bronze melted for weapons, urgent prayers. The drought was regional. The Hittites begged Egypt for grain. Trade routes collapsed as kingdoms imploded. The world was full of desperate, hungry people. Desperation breeds violence. The stage was set for the final act. Collapse was now inevitable. As famine and chaos spread, a new threat emerged: the Sea Peoples. Egyptian records describe them as a coalition of displaced groups, refugees and warriors driven by crisis. They swept down the coast, destroying Ugarit and toppling the Hittite Empire. They were a human tsunami, and they were heading for Greece. The Mycenaeans prepared, strengthening walls, posting coastal watchers, mobilizing troops, but the attackers struck swiftly, raiding and burning, not conquering. At Pylos, the palace was burned so fiercely that clay tablets were fired hard. The attackers didn't loot, they annihilated. One by one the citadels fell: Mycenae, Tyrans, Iolcos. The power of the wanax was shattered. The storm had broken, and nothing was left. The end came as a perfect storm: earthquakes, drought, famine, and invasion. The great palaces burned, the ruling elite killed or scattered. The bureaucracy vanished overnight. Literacy was lost. Linear B died with the scribes. For 4 centuries, no one in Greece could read or write. The memory of the Mycenaean age survived only in oral stories. Population collapsed, up to 75% gone. Survivors fled to small isolated villages. The world shrank. The grand tombs and trade routes disappeared. The interconnected Bronze Age gave way to isolation. The Greek Dark Ages. Yet, in the rubble, seeds of a new world were sown. With tin gone, smiths learned to work iron. The palace system was replaced by smaller, more egalitarian communities. The catastrophe cleared the ground for classical Greece to emerge. Out of destruction came transformation. The Mycenaean collapse was total. A complex civilization vanished. The Greek Dark Ages followed, a long winter for the human spirit. Yet the echoes of the Bronze Age lingered in stories and song. Bards preserved the memory of heroes: Agamemnon, Achilles, Odysseus. When literacy returned, these tales became Homer's epics. The collapse created a political vacuum. New ideas took root. The polis, the city-state, emerged. Power shared among citizens, not kings. This was the seat of democracy. The legacy is a paradox: immense loss, but also resilience and transformation. The Greeks who emerged remembered both the heights and the fragility of civilization. Their ambition was fueled by memory and caution. The story of the Mycenaeans is a warning, and a lesson in survival.